hopefully stick to those timings so that we can get out of here for.
Can I just ask a wee question? Do you know, see in regards to the screen, it's very difficult to see the screens to read motions, and we have to get up and read and stand over people. Is there any chance that we can maybe get the proposals or whatever emailed out so we can access it on our iPad or something, so we have better visualization of what the reading is of the proposals? Just a question.
Okay, John.
You, Deputy Mayor, if you don't mind, if you let us look into that between now and the next meeting, do want to do something a bit sort of ad hoc during this, but we'll look into that. Yeah, it's a good suggestion. Yeah. I'm just thinking through you, Deputy Chair or Deputy Mayor, if rather than having members cumbersomely write out any long proposals or amendments, if they want to email them to me, I might be able to pick them up on the phone and then we can take it from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I just want to declare a non-pecuniary interest in the motion in the name of Councillor Deeney, please. Thank you.
No problem.
It's not because I'm a vapour, by the way. It's someone else.
No problem. Okay, folks, that all been said, we'll move on to the motions now. And the first motion is in the name of Councillor McDade. And if you got a seconder for that, please, Councillor McDade. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take the motion as read, if that's okay. Okay, so on many occasions we've discussed the issue of violence against women and girls, and I know it's an issue that many of us care deeply about. All of us are rightly and profoundly concerned by the rates of domestic violence here in the north, particularly in our own city and district. I don't need to rehearse the figures of 1 in 4 women that will experience domestic violence in their lifetimes, or the fact that more than 33,000 domestic abuse incidents were reported last year, or that 1 in 3 victims of domestic abuse are male, for us to take this critical issue seriously. Many of us have joined together to urge the reformation of an executive and an agreement on a new funded violence against women and girls strategy that can finally deal with this issue that plagues our society. However, I do believe we need to be taking all possible practical measures at council level to deal with this issue. I know we will agree that everyone should have a safe place from domestic abuse, and many of you are already aware of the work of ONUS, a social enterprise which offers specialist training and consultancy service on domestic violence and abuse. Through this motion, I am proposing that we join the 5 councils across Northern Ireland that have already undertaken training with this organisation to become designated as safe places for victims of domestic abuse. Across this city, more than 20 organisations have already decided to become safe places, including Craigan Library, St John's Primary School, Foyle Women's Information Network and Waterside Women. I believe it's only right the council itself follows their example. This training enables those who work at safe places to recognise domestic and sexual abuse, gain insight into it and find out how they can respond to anyone who has experienced it. As always, education and understanding is often the first steps we can take to grapple with issues like this. So as a council, we should come together and show our support and solidarity for victims of this crime through this important measure. And I look forward to working with councillors from all parties to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McDade. Councillor Duffy, Sandra Duffy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you to Councillor McDade for bringing forward this really important motion. And I don't feel the need to go over some of the statistics that Councillor McDade has already highlighted there in terms of the prevalence of domestic abuse and sexual violence within our city and district and within our wider society. But I do have to say I wasn't aware of this group, ONUS NI, so I did have to look them up to see the work that they did. Absolutely outstanding work in terms of this Safe Spaces campaign. I think it's really important that we have really good services throughout the city and district, including Foyle Women's Aid, La Dolce Vita, the Advocacy Project in Dove House, and we also through our own PCSP fund a number of services that assist women and men who have been victims of domestic abuse, including the Teamworks project that goes out into people's homes to make people's homes safer from people who have experienced domestic abuse. So we have a long history within the city and district of supporting and raising awareness of domestic violence and domestic abuse. So I think that it would only be right that we join with other councils and we become a safe space. One of the most dangerous times for anyone who is escaping domestic abuse is when they seek help. I only realised that recently at a conference that was run by Dolce Vita that was looking at the experiences of children and women particularly who were escaping domestic abuse. And we heard harrowing testimony from a number of people who have experienced it and have escaped it and have survived it. And I have to say some of the stories that they told, particularly of what happened once they had disclosed and tried to escape the situation that they were in, was absolutely harrowing. And that's when we need to have those safe spaces where women, men, whoever is involved can go and disclose, get confidential advice and support, and anything that we can do in terms of raising awareness of domestic abuse within our society is something that we absolutely should be doing. And from reading the information that Ona and I have put out in relation to the training that they can provide, I think that it would be only right that us as a council endorse that, and hopefully we can all avail of that training. So happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Duffy. Alderman Cook online.
Thanks, Deputy Chair, for letting me in, and thanks very much to Councillor McDade for bringing this motion forward. I also, like Sandra, wasn't aware of Ona CNI, and I did look into them as well, and the work that they do is phenomenal. I feel that us as a council undertaking this training will really benefit our council area. And I would advocate for all council facilities to be safe places where those in need could receive support, information, or even signposting. So I concur with other speakers. So just thanks very much again to Councillor McDade, and thanks, Deputy Chair, for letting me in.
No problem. Thank you very much, Alderman Cook. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Catherine, for your proposal, and I suppose all those statistics as well, and that is just probably some of the cases that we know about. And there are cases out there that we don't know about or people are concealing. I just wanted to speak as one of the members of the working group in UNICEF, and you're on this as well, Catherine, from the child's point of view. It's very important that we protect the children in circumstances of domestic violence. And I just wanted to speak about a project called Operation Encompass, which has been live here in the north of Ireland since 2021. It's an initiative whereby if police are called to a home in relation to a domestic violence act, then they inform the children's school before 9 a.m. the next day, which gives that child a chance of going on to school to have a normal day. So I just wanted to highlight that in relation to the children as well. It's something that we should incorporate within the domestic violence stuff that we're going to be doing. And I do look forward to speaking or to be part of the group that Catherine's chatting about, because if we do put wraparound support around children, it gives them a better day in school, a better tomorrow in school, and a better life, just by reducing the trauma that they might have been subjected to in the home. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hutton, and I don't see nobody. No other. Sorry, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, People Before Profit fully endorse the proposal, and thank Councillor McDade for bringing it forward. I mean, our domestic violence levels, statistics are just harrowing to read about, and we have to be proactive in doing something about it. And as the motion says itself, the number of children that are impacted by this is huge as well. And I think that's why proactive, whatever the council can do, we should do. So ONUS does brilliant work. I think we would benefit as a council from their trainings, and I think then having as many safe spaces across our district will be of huge value. So thanks again for the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin, and I'll move back to Councillor McDade to sum up.
Thanks very much, everybody, for the support on the motion. Councillor Hutton, I agree. I've put that in the motion about the 90% of incidents happening with children in the house, and that's whenever I was doing my research for the motion, I was so happy to see the primary schools are in with us as well, because it's really important that what the training will provide for us as a council is education of how we can recognise signs, how we can offer that support and signpost out. So I'm really delighted to see that schools are doing that as well. There is, in the last, before the executive fell, there was a safe leave bill passed, which is about a policy going forward that people are entitled to 10 days leave per year from the work paid. If there's been an incident of domestic violence. So I agree with what you're saying. There's so many incidents that we don't know about. But this might show that more people will be coming forward because they can speak to their manager or their people at work as well. So there's going to be more incidents being brought forward. But yes, thank you very much. I look forward to working with ONUS. Hopefully this goes forward soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McDade. I'm sure everybody agrees in here that that's unanimous, yes? 100%. Thanks very much and well done, Councillor McDade. Moving on to our next motion now is in the name of Councillor Boggs. And have you got a seconder, Councillor Hart?
Gurmugget, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Hart. I will take the motion as read. Is it up there?
Yep. Deputy Mayor, I suppose everybody will be aware of the letter that was sent from the newly formed group, Strabane Greenways, who are, for want of a better word, a lobby group for increased network on our greenways around Strabane and the wider area. And I welcome the initiative that's been taken by that group and how they have went about their business. I know that they have met with myself, they've met with other Sinn Féin councillors, and they've met with councillors from other parties as well, who represent the Strabane area. And really bringing the motion forward is to support their calls and to support what they included within the letter and what they are asking for. And I don't think they're asking for too much given the nature of the walkway that is already there, that many members who are familiar with Strabane Town will be familiar with themselves. I think the most notable point within the letter is that they are lobbying for a greenway that is entirely off the road. And I know that a lot of the greenway network that has already been built within Strabane Town, and I even think about out as far as Castlefun that is being built at the minute, it is right at the roadside. They're advocating for greenways and quiet ways rather than just extended footpaths, and I think that's particularly what they're asking for in the letter that they sent to us. I think everybody will agree as well that coming out of COVID and the pandemic, people are looking to get out more. And yesterday I walked that particular route where they're looking to connect Strabane to Sion Mills, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I don't think anybody could disagree with that. But it is about more than just getting out for a dander. It is about the economic possibility of linking Sion to Strabane and people having different ways of travelling between those two places. So basically the motion aims to support the Strabane Greenways and to connect both communities in Strabane and Sion, and that's what I'm asking members to endorse on behalf of Strabane Greenways here today. Gurmugget.
Thank you very much, Councillor Boggs. Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the proposals brought here by Councillor Boggs and endorse everything he said 100%. I also welcome the work undertaken by the Strabane Greenways Group and the support they have gathered from the community groups and sporting organisations across the Strabane district. This project should be a priority for Council. Forthcoming legislation will be introduced for the provision of a 10% minimum of the Department of Infrastructure transport budget to be allocated to active travel. As a council, the funding streams will be readily available, so I would ask council to expedite this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hart. Councillor Geller.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for letting us in. And thanks to Councillor Boggs for bringing this. I think that I'm maybe a wee tad older than him, but I remember going back in the day that there was a complete walkway from the bridge end right up to Sion. And unfortunately, the construction of the new wall sort of eradicated that. But if you look close enough, you will find that the trail is still there. So it was very beneficial in my day when I was running about as a youngster. And I think it has the potential to be very beneficial for the children of the district in the future. So very happy to support this proposal.
Thank you very much, Councillor Geller. And just on behalf of myself and the SDLP, just to totally support Councillor Boggs' motion here today. I, like the rest of the Sperrin DA councillors, met with Dahi and team going forward. And I also took on Dahi's proposal to propose to the Environment and Regeneration Committee that they will be on next month to give us a deputation on what they want council to do. So we'll look forward to that next month as well. But just again, for that full support on behalf of the SDLP and I'll now let in Alderman Hussey on the issue.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The proposal does, of course, come into the Derg electoral area, and I fully admire the work that has been done by the newly formed group and can be supportive of it. Members who have been on council for a while will realise that I am also supportive of council investigating the Ardstraw to Loch Derg walkway along the River Derg, which was a significant Middle Ages European pilgrimage route in its time. And I hope that will remain on the table. But this particular project I do support. I know that council officers have elements of this already projected and indeed working on. I realise there will be difficulties of land ownership along that particular route and gaining the access, but at least the work should be done to try and bring into activity. Councillor Gallagher has pointed out a greenway which was there. Let's reactivate it. We realise the difficulties of land ownership and insurance and everything else that would be incurred with it, but if you don't start, you'll not finish. Thank you, Chair. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Raymond Barr online.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to Councillor Boggs for bringing this motion. Strabhan's crying out for an off-road greenway. The existing greenway in Strabhan, to me, would be better described as a shared pathway, running as it does alongside the main arterial route through Strabhan and along the Derry Road, Canal Basin, John Wesley Street. It's really more like a walk through the town. A lot of individuals and families refuse to use this route for exercise leisure because of the obvious fear of air pollution. I'm totally supportive of the Greenways group, and I feel that they're in the right position to drive this forward. So again, thank you to Councillor Boggs.
Thank you, Councillor Barr, and no other speakers on this, so I'll go back to Councillor Boggs.
Deputy Mayor, can I come in? Sorry, I don't have a chat box. Alderman Kerrigan.
No problem, Alderman Kerrigan, go on ahead, yep.
Thank you. Apologies, Deputy Mayor. I don't have your number either to message you, so apologies. That's my fault. I do welcome the motion brought forward by Councillor Boggs, because it will, as Alderman Hussey's alluded to, it will be the vast majority of Greenway would be within the Derg DEA. But it's the scenario of it is we did have a very useful meeting with Council Officer with Mike Savage, and again there was he sent out the slides in regards to the Greenways there. And me only, as I say, we're content to support the motion. Greenways is a positive way forward, but I do think, well, you've got to be ambitious. At the very end there, the very last sentence there of completing this project before the end of the council term. The only thing I might say, which council term? Because, I mean, we had a very useful discussion with Mike, and we saw the realities of it on the ground, and Alderman Hussey's alluded to it as well. There is a lot of difficulties with the land ownership, and again, Councillor Gallagher referred to the old walkway that was there. That was referred to with that meeting, and referred to the issue to do with sections that floods. You know, so the greenway that they did have, which was displayed to us, a large section of that was out onto the main road there effectively, and I know there's issues there with taking it totally off the main road, but you can be ambitious. But it's a good project to go forward, and we will support it, but there's a lot more complications to that, and again, we do need a lot more lead support and buy-in from a lot of individuals to do that, because I mean, it was discussed about taking the greenway on from Victoria Bridge to Newton Stewart, and reference the amount of land and the amount of different landowners in question on that. So support the motion, but it's ambitious to try and hope for it for this term, but nothing beats a trier. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. I'll move to Councillor Boggs to some.
Very much, Deputy Mayor, and I'll be very brief. And just to come back to Alderman Kerrigan, I think if you can't be ambitious in here and try and come up with solutions to the issues that 26 community groups are putting towards us to try and get a greenway, and I wouldn't even say built, I would say redeveloped, because as Councillor Gallagher alluded to, there is already a towpath there that I was able to walk the whole way to Siam Mills yesterday, so we're not asking for anything brand new, we're just asking for, I suppose, something a bit more concrete, although not concrete, along the river. It's a greenway. concrete was not a pun. There's no concrete going on the riverbed. But I suppose just it is, obviously it does say within the end of this council chairman again, that is to be completely supportive within this motion of what the Strabane Greenways Group and the 26 community and sporting organisations had asked for within their letter. So more than happy to see that it is supported, particularly across the Sperrin councillors and the Derg, as noted by one of the Derg councillors, I think it was Alderman Kerrigan, that the majority of it will be on there in the Derg ward. But I'm sure that the Strabane Greenways Group will be more than happy to see that their proposals and their outlook for this towpath or greenway, whatever we're going to call it, has the support of this council. So thank you very much, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs, and I'm sure everyone once again will agree that that's unanimous. Yep. Well done, Councillor Boggs. Moving on now to the next motion, and this is in the name of Alderman Guy, Councillors Tierney, Jackson, Harkin, Barr, Gallagher, Raymond Barr, Gallagher, Donnelly. So I've been advised by the city solicitor and the chief executive that it goes in order. So the first, Alderman Guy has had to sent his apologies, had to leave the meeting. So it goes on down to the next councillor, which is Councillor Tierney, which means Councillor Tierney, you have 3 minutes, and the rest of the speakers on this is 2 minutes.
Me?
Councillor Tierney.
Chair, I'm happy to propose the motion. Do you need a seconder?
Do you need a seconder? Yep. Second, Councillor Harkin, yeah.
Chair, thank you. And I'm not going to use up my entire 3 minutes, so don't be worrying. There'll be no fallout over time used. This isn't actually a motion that I have prepared myself. I think you'll see from the list of people who are supporting this motion that this is a motion coming from an organisation who has met with a number of councillors. It's one that I'm happy to support on behalf of the SDLP, and I think it's one that we probably should have already done. And we should already know this. When this information was put to me around people's ability to access mental health support within my own DA, I'll be honest and say that I had to think of where they could go and how they could access that support. I'm, I suppose, someone, in my opinion, who would, I believe that I would know most of what's going on in my DA and would work quite closely with all of the community organisations and would know where and how to signpost someone in the right direction to seek support with any issue, but particularly around mental health. And if I or any other councillor within their own DA had to think about where they would send someone, then I think that's a problem, and it's one that we should address. I think that by doing the survey, we will be able to address that, but I think the results of the survey then need to be published. May it be on the council website or on social media platforms or whatever, so that we can get the information that we obtain through the survey back out to the wider public. But look, as I say, it's not a particular my emotion. It's one that's coming from Mindwise, and I acknowledge and commend the people at Mindwise for the work that they do on a daily basis, but also for trying to work with council to highlight where any gaps in provision may be. And I look forward to hopefully the deputation that Mindwise will give to a further committee. But on behalf of the SDLP, I'm happy to propose and support the motion as tabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor Jackson.
Good, Deputy Mayor, and I suppose I put my name towards the motion on behalf of the entire Sinn Féin team within council, and I want to commend the work of Mindwise and Gavin Campbell in particular, who met with representatives from all parties within this chamber. They request support for this motion, and the motion was tabled in conjunction with World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. And the fact that there is a World Mental Health Day points to the huge challenges and crisis that exists within, not only in the city and district, but much further afield in relation to people struggling with mental health issues. And the reality is, as Councillor Tierney alluded to, is that the services simply aren't there for many people who are seeking help and support with mental health challenges. And there's organisations like Mindwise and many others that are lobbying to try and lobby to access additional funding so they can provide that additional support. And this is one mechanism that we can do to support organisations like Mindwise. They help gather the information, gather the data, they make a stronger case for additional funding to be brought into this city and district and right across the north to address the huge need in relation to mental health. So there's fantastic organisations that are doing brilliant work right across, but the simple answer is that there's not enough resources. So hopefully this is the first step in terms of a campaign to finally address the huge challenges that exist within mental health services. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And like others, I want to commend Mindwise for this initiative. Mindwise, as people know, is a mental health charity. And this is a very proactive effort by them to try and get our council taking steps that will ultimately assist Mindwise, but also a lot of other organisations that are working on per mental health, and hopefully will contribute to people across our district receiving more help and more care. And I think that as the motion written up by Mindwise says, the North has the highest prevalence of mental health problems in these islands. That is not a great statistic to have, unfortunately, but it's true. And the second one, I think, is crucial in this, that only 40% of people here in the North who seek help can access effective mental health care, and 79% of those people do not receive the service that they need. So both there you get that people don't know how to access care, which is something we need to understand. And then the care that they receive isn't good enough because we know there's just not enough funding for per mental health care here in the North. Another thing just that I wanted to bring attention to, just thinking about our commitment to try and think about children in as many motions as we can, is that, look, research shows that childhood adversity is the biggest factor in poor mental health. And that is very important for us to understand. And that's highest in the most deprived areas. So, you know, that's another worrying statistic. Another thing I think that is important to understand about deprivation and its relationship to poor mental health is that, unfortunately, the rate of suicide or death by suicide in deprived areas is almost double what it is in other areas. So, look, I think that this is something we as a council, people before profit, all parties hopefully will get behind and help promote and get as many people participating in the survey as possible. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Raymond Barr online.
Thank you, Chair. This is an online survey I feel will be inundated with participants. The level of mental health support in the North West definitely leaves a lot to be desired. And the standard of mental health support for those who are able to access would appear to leave a lot to be desired too. This year I received 9 complaints in relation to one facility. 4 of these were serious enough to warrant following up with an official complaint to Western Health and Social Care Trust and awaiting on an outcome on them. I've certainly heard some horror stories about the standard of mental health support, and I look forward to this survey. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And like others, I'm happy to put my name to this. I come in contact with people day and daily, and particularly young people. And a lot of the time, young people, they don't know what's going on in their lives, but they know that there's something wrong, and they have great difficulty in accessing services. And I think, like all the speakers have said, I think it's not about stating what is out there, but I think that what is out there is definitely been overburdened by demand. And I think that there needs to be strategic approaches put in place, very much like this one, that we can draw down essential funding, that we can provide essential services, and that's what's needed within this district. So happy to support, Chair.
You, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Donnelly.
Deputy Mayor, look, everything has been said. You know, as elected reps, we deal with people on a daily basis who, you know, they may come to you for one thing, and then you soon find that there's a multitude of things. When you dig into it, it's obvious that there's a lot of people out there who are struggling. You know, we're in a society here that has had huge conflict enforced upon us, and there's generational issues from that that aren't always very noticeable. There's all sorts of problems here. You know, we've had the problems associated with COVID and what that has brought. We've a cost of what I would call capitalism crisis. We have a housing crisis, a lack of social housing. The numbers of people looking for that is astronomical. We have a health crisis, people having all sorts of issues trying to access their GPs or proper health service. You know, but I think, you know, this motion is an example where this council can work together, cross-party, independent, cross-community. You know, so I think it's encouraging, and anything that can be done by this council to look after those, you know, who are in help is to be an encouraging sign. So happy to endorse the proposal, the motion from my office.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It is so encouraging to be able to speak on a topic within Council that we all unanimously care deeply about. I am sure that there is not one person sitting in the chamber today or in our entire Council area who has not felt the effects of the struggles of their own or a loved one's mental health. Having not long completed a large canvass of the rural Faugham ward, it became more than evident that mental health was a top priority for so many of my constituents, both young and old. Anyone can have a time where they struggle with their mental health. It doesn't discriminate, and often asking for help can be very, very difficult. Our DUP MLA Diane Forsyth has recently stated that early intervention is key in tackling intergenerational issues in Northern Ireland, including mental health. I think we can all agree with how true that statement is. I actually recall one house where I ended up not canvassing at all. I stood for a lengthy time and listened as the young man shared his struggles. We ended the conversation with a hug. Even the toughest person here would have struggled not to shed a tear, listening to the young man pour his heart out. I believe that we should commend Mindwise for their forward thinking and their wish to collate vital data, which will provide us with key information as a council that we can use to fine-tune our services and share with stakeholders. I am hopeful that this moves to a working group and that we can find ways to make the survey inclusive to those who do not have internet access, who are not tech savvy, and also those with intellectual disabilities who may need assistance to have their voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I thank the collective who have brought this to council. I doubt that there's anyone sitting in this chamber who at some time or another has found themselves just wondering and hoping that somebody was coming along at some stage, as Councillor or Alderman Middleton has referred there, to just put a hand on your shoulder or give you a hug or whatever. It comes to us all. Some can handle it better than others. I totally support the motion and indeed the comments that have been around the chamber. Coming to the actual last part of the deputation, and it's a question, and I know there's a collective here, but I'm presuming that when we talk about the deputation, we're talking in terms of whenever the survey is designed, co-designed and delivered, that we are trusting that Mindwise with their expertise would be the people who would analyse the survey, and from that survey and their analysis develop recommendations which they will then come to council to present. In other words, making that contribution to the work of council. I would find that more beneficial than just mind-wise coming in and talking to us. I think if they come in with that particular purpose, it gives more substance to the deputation that would eventually come. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you for letting me on, Chair. I think this is a brilliant idea. I just wanted to commend the collective group that have brought this forward. I think it's really exciting that we're going to be working with Mindwise. And can I draw particular attention just to the surveys being done in HDEA? I work in the community sector, and finding funding at the minute is just a really, really long and drawn out exercise, particularly funding for mental health. This fact-finding exercise is going to provide that evidence. The community organisations, it'll break it down into each neighbourhood renewal area, and it'll give perfect opportunity for everybody to collaboratively work, come together and possibly look for funding that we can all use as a district in HDEA. So I want to say just it's really, really looks really, really promising, and I think it's a great collaborative piece of work, which hopefully funding will come down the line arising out of it. And thanks to the collective group for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. I'll move back now to Councillor Tierney, just to quickly sum up.
Thanks, Chair. I suppose there's not much to sum up, really. I think everybody has made a very valuable contribution to this discussion. And I think Alderman Hussey's suggestion that Mindwise come on after the survey's carried out would be valuable as well. Look, I think people know why this is important. And I think the sooner that this survey is carried out, the better, because it will only go to assist people within our communities. I take Councillor Hutton's point around it lining up with neighbourhood renewal areas, but she will know that neighbourhood renewal areas don't, unfortunately, in my opinion, line up directly with DEAs. So there may be some slight overlap there, but I think it's important that through our local growth partnerships and things like that, that we are able to feed these results of this survey in, where it would be a better beneficial to the entire DEAs. But look, that's it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. And sure, it's no surprise that that's obviously unanimous, and well done to the collective group for bringing it. So we'll move on now to the next motion in the name of Councillor Neillis.
I'm going to take the motion as read, but I'm going to take the opportunity to translate it into Irish.
No problem at all, and that's been seconded by Councillor McGinley.
Okay, so Tugan and Corliffe, Shaw, Fuidara, Lehimne, Gowil, Gar, Haim, Lananach, and Costas, Warwick, Tala, August Nikiriha, Atakirha, Evaim, Ig Realtanis, Nabretagne, Ig Janu, and Vogtanacht, August and Fian, Argadish, Ergani, Safobal, Nismasa. Craig and she, Comaila Shin, Gowil Gal, Galagar, Pa, Mark, Tala, August Chorus, Liasa, Hoshali, Cohram, Ayerian, Aquani, Ernahachana, Ismoker, Gala, August Yevni, and Gowil, Eas Kaijan, Bon Reaktanak, Mark, Tala, Igdini. Agni and she, Nagwil and Chorus, Liasa, Hoshali, Raha, Gohariha, Crejvis, Eliak, Ornocht and Vaima Talish, Nagwil she Muniha, Mars Kurt, August Gowil she Eclishu, Ergini. Agni and she Comaila Shin, Gowil she at Shuad, a Tagbra, Crejvis, Eliak, Harave, Yoch, Aliak, Mariel, Kunshi, Doherha, Nagwil Ian Yart, Aku, Orhu, Gumanik, Kosala Kalunj, Fostiacta, Chinas, Fragrak, Dekurum, Mediha, August Clishu, Chili. Taki and she leis an actus Jarvi Arn Yawer Rektanaha, a Yevnian Gowil Gak Dana in on the Bon Ruddy a Kianak in Am and Cruatan. August alien she a realtus Nabratanya, Jarvi Our Rektanaha, Hortus Jack and Yev Noad, Erliad, Lientus Credvish Eliak, no Irakta, a Hos Noad, Dini, Ove Igmar Tilgan Hawer Rektanaha. I suppose the question that needs to be asked here is, where has the security gone in our social security system? Because what we are seeing now with our community is the painful results of a succession of punishing cuts and changes piled upon us by an austerity government. As winter moves in on us, the reality once again for many households is heat or eat. The cost of living is skyrocketing, while the average wage in our council area is unacceptably low. This, combined with rising rents and mortgage payments, lack of a childcare strategy and a failing social security system, is creating the perfect storm where our people are spiralling into severe poverty and depression. You only have to look at the queues outside the food banks to know that the system is broken. In these dire situations, and in situations where a person's circumstances change suddenly, we should be able to rely upon the safety net that is our social security system, but we can't. Let's take universal credit, for example. In the absence of a sitting government, the transition from tax credits to universal credits has been forced upon us without any real consultation period on how it would affect different groups within our society. Farmers who are asset rich but cash poor are losing out on a vital top up to their income, where an arable land has been classed as an asset, bringing their income above the threshold and so cutting off their eligibility to universal credits. A classic case of a British government failing to understand and facilitate this vital industry. The seasonal workers, the self-employed, the digitally illiterate, the people living in rural areas with no internet connection, the parents whose wages now put them over the threshold to receive free school meals for their children, the partner who has lost a spouse. This list of people affected by the inept universal credit system is by no means exhaustive, and what we are seeing now is the third sector being heavily relied upon as an A&E for social security advice, creating waiting lists and triage systems to manage priority cases. The most vulnerable in our society are being failed, and until we have the opportunity to shape a system that is tailored and fit for purpose within a new Ireland, we must continue to fight for the dignity and basic needs that are being stripped from us through austerity. And so it is with this in mind that Sinn Féin fully endorses the Guarantee Our Essentials campaign and calls upon the British Government and asks them to introduce the Essentials Guarantee, ensuring that the basic rate within universal credit at least covers essentials such as food, bills and travel. Carmagad.
Thank you very much. Councillor Neelis. Councillor Fard.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Neelis, for proposing the motion. I'm going to speak in support of it. I was having a look online and I discovered that a single person aged under 25 who's on universal credit has £73 a week to live on. That's not enough. It's not enough to cover basics. It's not enough to cover essentials. It's not enough to provide any quality of life whatsoever. And realistically, it's not enough to survive. And the current level of support condemns people to a life in poverty. And the current level of support condemns people to a life of misery and destitution. And while we support the call for the British government to provide a meaningful increase to the level of benefit payments, what we in the SLP would like to see is the delivery and the implementation of the long-awaited anti-poverty strategy here in the North. People have been waiting since 1998. So that's 25 years. It's a quarter of a century. The people in the North have been waiting for a comprehensive plan to once and for all address poverty. And the latest delay is due to one particular party's refusal to form a government. And that provides no comfort whatsoever to the 33,000 people living in this council area who are living in poverty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Farrell. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you. I think that the blame of one political party, I think, is very much selling the argument very short. And as you say, over 25 years we've done a strategy, and one for this town here and this district, way before that. I think it goes back over way 100 years. That said, I'm happy to support this proposal and to agree that it is not fit for purpose. We have seen people over recent years getting put onto universal credit and put onto universal credit because they've had a change in their circumstance. And now there's going to be en masse people going over onto universal credit, and it is a system that's not fit for purpose. And We see in and around, I think there's in and around 70,000 homes in the north that's going to be affected by this. And as we speak this month, next month, we're going to see families with no income, which are going to get forced from a legacy benefit onto universal credit, and the system doesn't allow for payments for up to 5 or 6 weeks. So when we talk about hardship, financial hardship, there's a train coming down the road and it's coming down very fast that is going to see people that will have absolutely no finances coming into their household because they're being forced onto a benefit. So anything that can try and put that off has to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and we fully support the proposal and thank the councillor for introducing it. And I mean, the Tories have been very clear about their intent in terms of the benefit system. It's to weaken it. It's to drive people off it, apparently to save money. Universal credit, in our opinion, should never been introduced here. And it's not just that it's mismanaged, it's that it is a system that doesn't help people. It's not a humane system. And as the previous speaker pointed out, nearly 80,000 people will be moved over it now in the coming months. And it's worrying that that's happening for all the reasons that we spoke about. And I was at a meeting and a number of other people were at it last week. And Karen Mullen from the Foyle Food Bank talked about the pressure on the food bank right now, that she's never seen it so bad. The staff are completely overwhelmed. And there's a bit of a sense in the media that maybe the cost of living crisis isn't as bad, but then that's what we're hearing. And we are moving into the colder months now, and it's been unseasonably warm in some ways. But I think that this is what people are going to be dealing with in a lot of their homes. Again, inability to afford proper heating, inability to afford food. Children are going to be, going to school, not properly fed. So this is the working out of, creating more and more economic inequality across our society. But look, the demand for a minimum is something we should absolutely back and put the British government under pressure to deliver right now. This is something that's united a lot of charities, a lot of campaigns. I think it's something we should do what we can as a council to promote. It's not the case. Nothing can be done while Stormont is down. I think we should put the British government under pressure and join up with others that have been calling for support for the Guarantee Essentials campaign. So we welcome it and we, fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Middleton.
Councillor Barrett was McMorris, not me.
Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I suppose, I'm not going to sit here and try to defend the British government in regards to universal credit. We all know that there's major issues with universal credit. I have to say, though, it's not just a British government issue. When you put the cost of living crisis into the mix, it's never a good place for anybody. And I'd just like to say our colleagues within the DUP has been championed in regards to the changes to the universal credit system. And they're in Westminster all the time lobbying against the British government. And suppose when everybody's talking about the DUP getting back into work and back into this here government and whatever, I have to say, even if they were in government tomorrow, would that really make a big difference in regards to this? And just in reference to one comment that talked about our New Ireland, I just hasten to add, if we were in a New Ireland tomorrow, would we all be affluent? and have food rich and everything else rich, I doubt very seriously. But in regards to this motion, we are prepared to support it on the basis of there is major reform needed for universal credit and other benefit systems. And we do realise that there's help needed for people out there on the ground. So we will support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, look, the previous speaker talks about a New Ireland, and there is people who think that any type of New Ireland, that it will be a 32-county free state, that it's a matter of extending the border up and the 6 counties and just having place. That's not, in my view, as a socialist Republican, what type of New Ireland that there's nor is it a 32-county Commonwealth. There's probably good aspects of our good systems in both states, and that's any type of New Ireland that what we need to be doing. Of course, we can say we can take the best bits, and that's where we need to be striving upon. But the reality is that we have to deal with what we have here now. Sometimes a wee bit rich come from the DUP when, in the past they have supported these measures in this council chamber. You would nearly think there's no working class struggling sometimes when they vote against the ban of 0-hour contracts and that. And that goes against working class Protestants who are suffering every bit as much as everybody else, or working class unionists probably be a better way to describe it. But there is, and it's been mentioned there, what's coming down the track here, and it's the ripple effect, Deputy Chair, that's going to have. We already have a number of welfare rights groups in the city. Some of them are piecemeal funded by this council and our departments, and they're struggling. Try and get an appointment. Try and get an appointment in these circumstances before this mass sort of immigration overrate. It's going to be 100 times worse, and it's difficult at the minute. Not everybody can go online and is capable of signing up to universal credit online. And this is going to put such a strain on the meagre resources that's already there. And it's going to put a lot of pressure on those advice workers who are there at the minute struggling, absolutely struggling. It's not uncommon from talking to even councillors in here and advice workers who are going home every night with maybe 4 or 5 forms to fill in. And the natural progression of that is going to be food banks are going to be, when people aren't getting paid, that's going to put added pressure onto them. So we're in for some serious times here. But again, back to the motion, happy to support the motion. Anything we can do that can help, but then it has to be welcomed. Thank
you very much, Councillor Donnelly, and I don't see any more speakers on this motion, so I'll pass back to Councillor Nelis to sum up.
I just want to put in as part of that motion where it says calls on. I would like to request that's changed to that a letter is written to.
Yep, so we'll note that as a request, and then if the motion's passed, we'll action that then.
Thank you, Margaret. Just briefly, just coming back on some of the comments here. In terms of the New Ireland comment, I'm not suggesting that there's going to be a utopia of affluence. What I'm suggesting is that as part of a New Ireland, we could recreate what our social service, what our system, social security system looks like, and one that would be befitting of the people of this country and tailored towards the people of this country. Garamaga for all the comments on that. Just basically everything that's been said. I appreciate the support for this motion, and anything that can go towards a better winter or a better year for people who are always struggling, always in the breadline and really struggling to make ends meet. It would be brilliant if this motion would be moved forward and the law would be brought in to ensure that people aren't always struggling and will always be able to have the essentials.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nelis, and I think going by all the comments, that's also unanimous. Yes. Well done, Councillor Nelis. Thank you. Moving on now to Councillor Deeney's motion. Do you have a seconder for that motion, please, Councillor Deeney? Councillor Murphy.
I'll just take the motion as read, if that's okay. So the first point I would like to highlight within the motion is the environmental implications surrounding the increasing use of single-use vaping products. Disposable vaping products are made with several materials. We are talking about plastic bodies, copper and lithium batteries inside. These are very valuable resources which should be being recycled appropriately to conserve our world's natural resources and prevent further extractions. However, they're not being recycled, with an enormous number of them being dumped into landfill every single day. As this mixture of material makes them very hard to recycle, and when they end up in landfill or littered across our streets, we're at risk of harmful chemicals leaking into our environment. In particular, when we're looking at lithium batteries, they're flammable and therefore a fire hazard, which could be posing a risk to our recycling centres. We need a ban on these products to avoid the air and water pollution, as well as the greenhouse gas emissions that come with them. The second point I would like to make is the health implications and how single-use vaping products are readily available to our young people. We have all noticed these products in shops. They're marketed with bright, vibrant colours to attract attention and have flavours that are designed to entice our young people, all while cigarettes sitting beside them, also containing the addictive substance nicotine, are placed behind a sliding door. They are priced very affordably and are highly accessible to our young people. And while we understand that vaping products are used by many adults who have previously smoked cigarettes, teenagers are now led to believe that vaping is less harmful than smoking. This has not yet been proven, and the long-term effects of these products are not fully known. Our young people should not be the guinea pigs in this experiment. As a secondary school teacher myself and speaking to teachers across the island, we are extremely concerned about our pupils. One particular teaching union have reported that 85% of teachers believe vaping is a problem on school premises and calling on the government to do more immediately to protect children from the dangers of vaping. Over half of the teachers reported that pupils repeatedly leave lessons in order to vape, while a third report that some pupils are struggling to concentrate due to the effects of high nicotine volume in these products. I am their teacher. I cannot imagine the worry parents have for their child. These products are being banned by the EU in 2026 due to the environmental and health concerns I've just highlighted. If we don't take action now, we face seeing our shops being flooded by these products, resulting in the health and environmental catastrophe. We as elected representatives can't stand by and watch this epidemic among our young people unravelling before our eyes. We need to listen to doctors, nurses, teachers and parents. This needs to change before the next generation of our young people become addicted to single-use vaping products.
Thank you very much, Councillor Denny. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for bringing me in. And can I start by thanking Councillor Deaney for bringing this motion here today for debate and for raising the issue around vaping and public health for us all, especially the younger members of our society who use such products. I want to share the concerns that vaping can have a negative impact on children. And there's a need to ensure that such products are not targeted at children by marketing. I'm also concerned that the wider impact on the environment that Councillor Deaney has touched on in terms of the disposable nature of single-use vaping and how that is having an impact on people by teaching them of a disposable culture when things only get used once. I'm not a person who vapes or smokes, so I've had to do some research into this issue since I saw the agenda for this afternoon. And as part of that, I want to thank organisations like Chest, Heart and Stroke Northern Ireland, who, as it happens, are running an online seminar tomorrow from 4 to 5 on this very issue. At one stage, I thought maybe this motion may have been debated on Thursday afternoon. We mightn't have got today's business done. But for anyone that's interested, you can register for that session tomorrow, which would be a good opportunity to hear from experts in the field. We in the SDLP do have some concerns, so just around the final line of the motion, and that's why I've submitted an amendment to the committee section for councillors here to consider. We think that there is a concern around the success of a call to have an outright ban on single-use vapes, as there are opportunities to circumvent that by providing rechargeable rather than the single-use vapes, which will still have the same impact on the environment and the same impact on the health of those who use vapes. We also feel that people who use vapes to cut out the more harmful cigarettes will be penalised if there was to be an outright ban. And we also know that selling to a child or buying on behalf of a child is already illegal, and therefore an outright ban we don't think is the right way forward. We feel a stronger regulation is required, and that's what the amendment proposes, Deputy Mayor. To ensure that everyone, users of the vapes, retailers and enforcement officers, are clear on what is legal and what isn't. And there are different vapes on the market which can vary in terms of strength of nicotine, the amount of puffs per device. So we think that all of those products need to face regulation as the way forward. Our amendment also details that local councils, as per the advice on the NI Direct website, are primarily responsible for issuing advice and enforcing the smoke-free and nicotine age of sale regulations in Northern Ireland. So that's why I encourage people to support our amendment, because that touches on the council's responsibility on this issue. And I'll conclude, Deputy Mayor, by just thanking Councillor Deaney for putting this subject into the debating chamber where people can raise awareness around the concerns that people have on vaping, both in terms of health and on the wider environment. So thanks to Councillor Deaney for the tabling of the motion, which we support the spirit in which it was brought here to the chamber. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Riley. Alderman Cook online, are you happy enough to speak to the amendment as along with the motion? Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. So basically, like, as we all know, vaping is very common and unfortunately it's extremely popular with the younger generation.
My apologies, Alderman Cook, sorry to cut across you there. I just need a seconder for that amendment first. Sorry. Councillor Farr. Sorry, Alderman Cook, you can carry on there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So as I said, just as we know, vaping is very common and unfortunately extremely popular with the younger generation. And in my opinion, I don't think that there's enough awareness of the dangers associated with vaping. E-cigarettes contain many dangerous chemicals. For example, acrolein, which is a herbicide which is used to kill weeds. Like Martin, I also had a conversation with Chest, Heart and Stroke, and they currently have a vaping campaign, raising their concerns in regards to the impact that vaping can do to your body, for example, cardiovascular and respiratory illnesses. As I'm sure most of you are also aware, a young girl of 12 years of age from Belfast was recently admitted to ICU and put into an induced coma. This was an extremely scary thing for her and her family to experience, and I think as it's growing more and more popular, you know, we'll be seeing more of these incidents. I think it's such an important topic to be raising awareness on. So thanks very much to Councillor Deaney for bringing this forward, and I fully support her motion.
Thank you very much, Alderman Cook. Anybody else want to speak on either the motion or the amendment? Sorry, Councillor Deaney.
It's just to say, well, first of all, thanks to Alderman Cook and thanks to some of the comments that Councillor Riley has put forward. We won't be supporting the amendment. As I've said before, we've been listening to concerned parents, teachers, health professionals. We can't be led by manufacturers who are profiting from basically the exploitation of children. So we won't be supporting it, but thanks for the comments.
No problem. Thanks very much, Councillor Deaney. So I think at this stage we'll move to a vote for the amendment.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Alderman Cook.
Against.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey.
Against.
Alderman Carrigan.
Against, John.
Alderman McCready. Where is he? Alderman McMorris.
Against.
Alderman Middleton.
Against.
Alderman Wilkinson.
Against.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs.
Nil.
Councillor Boyle. Councillor Deaney.
Nil.
Councillor Devine. Councillor Donnelly.
Against.
Councillor Alex Duffy.
Against.
Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Fleming.
Neil.
Councillor Gallagher.
Against.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
Neil.
Councillor Heaney.
Neil.
Councillor Hutton.
Neil.
Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard.
Neil.
Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGowan. Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris. Councillor O'Farrell.
Neil.
Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. Councillor Neelis. Thank you. Deputy Mayor have recorded 8 for, 26 against, so the amendment falls.
Thank you, John. Okay, so amendment is fallen, so we'll go back now to the original motion. Does anybody else? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Deputy. Just whenever Councillor Denny is summing up, just to help me understand, why the concentration on single-use vaping and just not vaping in general? As she rightly points out, it has become an epidemic, which, the cure is perhaps worse than the original problem. And I just wonder why the concentration on that, and why not just go for the jugular and go for a ban on it altogether? Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Anyone else? No. So I'll move back to Councillor Denny to sum up, please.
Just to go back to what Alderman Hussey has said there. So single-use vaping, the price point is and on around a £5-6. So that is affordable for a young person, whereas those bigger vapes, the reusable ones, thank you, can be anything from 40 to 100, maybe more, I'm not sure, but it's just making it more accessible to children, which is the concern of mine, plus the environmental things that I've just highlighted. If you're recharging that vape, then okay, it's not as much of an environmental concern, whereas if you're throwing it away every time you're using it, that's where the lithium batteries and everything else are going on. All right. And just to say thank you for everyone that has supported it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Denny. And I think we're going to have to take this one to a vote.
Yeah. Okay.
Sean, thank you.
Alderman Cook.
For, John.
Alderman Hussey.
For.
Alderman Carrigan.
John.
Alderman McMorris.
For.
Alderman Middleton.
For.
Alderman Wilkinson.
For.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Abstain.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs.
Ta.
Councillor Boyle. Councillor Deeney. Councillor Devine. Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
Abstain.
Councillor Fleming. Councillor Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart. Councillor Heaney. Councillor Hutton. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard. Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGowan. Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris. Councillor O'Farrell. Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. Councillor Neelis. So, Deputy Mayor, I've recorded 27 for, none against, and 6 abstentions. So the substantive motion passes.
Great, John. Thanks very much. Well done, Councillor Denny. Okay, we'll move on now to the Chuckle Brothers to the back right there to move to the next motion. So Councillor Donnelly and Councillor Gallagher.
Mayor, our deputy mayor saying, don't get above your station. Thank you, Mayor. You've done a good job now. In fairness, I'll take the lead in this, and I'll take the motion as read.
Seconder, Councillor Donnelly. Yep.
Mayor, this is a topic that has had many a conversation in this chamber, and we appear over many years to be talking about this. We have seen in recent times a number of investigations around this, and some of the conclusions in some of them, time after time and time, is getting worse. These conclusions that this is much worse, and this is probably the biggest environmental crime that has taken place in the island of Ireland that we really know about. So there's been continuous conversations in back rooms and front rooms and side rooms about this, but there appears to be no direct action taking place. We as a council, and what's asking and the motion is, what is our responsibilities around this? Where do we move this conversation on? Because what's happened here in Mumbai, and we just seen it released there yesterday, the day before, stuff around we need to see the completion of the A6, and this is having a direct impact on it. This is having a direct impact on our environment. This is having a direct impact on our rivers, contributaries. This is having a direct impact on the residents. And we don't know the conclusion of how much damage this is going to do before there's a successful conclusion to this. So what the motion is asking is, let's us as a council look into this in depth, where we have responsibilities, and let's see how we can put this to the top of the agenda. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks to the two proposers of the motion for bringing this. People will remember it was an SDLP proposal a while back in the last mandate, which saw my boy included as a standing item on the agenda for the Environment and Regeneration Committee. And we done that then because we believe that it is an extremely important issue for everyone who lives across this council district. And that opinion hasn't changed at all. We all know that what is needed at Mavoy is remediation. And that needs to happen sooner rather than later. And in our opinion, we've already waited for far too long. I suppose, understand and in many ways sympathise with the proposers of the motion in relation to a report coming back to outline the responsibilities, implications and liabilities for council if we were to embark on a public call. But I think we also have to realise and recognise that what needs to happen at Mavoy is not the responsibility of this council. It's the responsibility of the department. And I have a slight concern that by embarking on this suggested direction of travel, that we may be somehow letting the department off the hook. And I don't think that that's something that we should be doing. The department recently, as I understand it, reported to the Environment and Regeneration Committee. And at that stage, my understanding is that there were very few concerns raised by elected members in relation to the timeline or the way that the department were suggesting that Mavoy was remediated. So in that vein, Deputy Mayor, we have a short, very short amendment to make to this proposal, which I've sent to the Chief Executive, given the technical difficulties. And it is, and I hope people can understand the rationale behind it. It literally is just to include that this council, in conjunction with the department, so that we're keeping a focus on where the focus needs to be, and the people that need to sort out what's going on at my boy is the responsible department, not this council. And I think that that's where we need to be applying the pressure that council have already shown to be applying. But I just have a slight concern that by the wording of this motion, we could be stepping into a space where council aren't necessarily required to be in, and taking the place of a government department who have the responsibility to do this. And our job, in my opinion, is to hold that government department to account and make sure that they live up to what we need to see happen at my boy. Thank you.
You, Councillor Tierney, have you a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Farrell. Okay, moving on then to Alderman Hussey. You happy enough to speak on both? Sorry, Councillor Gallagher, yep.
Chair, just could I ask for just like a legal opinion on it? Does that amendment change the entire context of the current proposal?
Okay, I'll bring in the solicitor just to confirm that.
Yeah, the wording seems to be in conjunction with, so that would suggest that it's working together rather than working instead of. So, yeah.
Okay, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Attorney, particularly when we're moving through the results whereby we're in danger of abrogation of the department's areas of responsibility. So I totally support the amendment when it comes to the floor. Who have been on council will know that there is a Maboy stakeholders group, and it is open to every single member of council to attend that stakeholders group. And I would just let you know, while I totally support the feelings within the motion, but I just have to ask the question, how many meetings of that stakeholders group have Councillors Donnelly and Gallagher attended? Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Duffy, you happy to speak on both?
Good, Deputy Mayor. So on behalf of Sinn Féin, we're happy to support the motion and amendment. As you all know, that I'm very passionate about the Maboy issue, with it being in my DA, but more so that I live in very close proximity to it. So we support the motion, emphasising that DAERA has committed to taking action within the coming months. While we appreciate the need for more information to be presented to Council, it's our hope that the forthcoming report from DAERA will align with the highly anticipated report. As a council, then we can make a informed decision. I just lost my place there, what I was reading. We can make an informed decision then after this report is presented back to us from DAERA on the most suitable approach for the remediation of the illegal land site based on the comprehensive insights from both sources. So happy to support both.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Raymond Barr online, you happy to speak to both?
Yes, Chair, thank you.
No problem, go ahead.
Like the previous speaker, I believe that we as councillors would benefit from a report outlining the advantages and disadvantages of council playing an active role in the remediation process. If we have the power to invite expressions of interest, then surely it's something we might need to consider. And this report will allow us to make an informed decision on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The Maboy site continues to be a serious concern for residents and all of us who care for our environment. We must strive forward to protect our residents, our native wildlife and our land. There is no doubt that we need to see greater momentum in relation to the Maboy site and dealing with the significant amount of illegal waste blighting our area. DUP support this motion, calling for a report to be brought forward on the potential implications and liabilities to the Council. This is a sensible approach which will provide us with clarity on what steps we can take next. The solution to Maboy will require all stakeholders working together within their relevant responsibilities alongside the local residents and outside bodies. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And People Before Profit are happy to support the proposal. Look, Maboy is a scandal and we need it cleaned up. But we also need accountability because, as it was described by Councillor Gallagher, this is one of the biggest environmental crimes committed on the island of Ireland, and it happened in broad daylight. And nobody really, other than a couple of people who clearly benefited from it financially, have been held to account. But it couldn't have happened without lots of other institutions and bodies, including government bodies, knowing exactly what was going on and doing absolutely nothing about it, and in fact contributing to the disaster that Maboy has become. And I don't trust any state bodies. This is the same state body that oversees Lough Neagh. We have to bring as much pressure as we can on stat bodies with a statutory responsibility for dealing with Maboy. But let's be honest, they've had to be pushed and prodded every step of the way to do anything about this. And that's going to be true going forward. I'm not convinced that the council needs to take on responsibility for Maboy remediation. But I think we should know, but I'm happy for a paper that outlines what the liabilities would be, the implications of that to be brought forward. And the way I look at it is this is a further measure of bringing pressure on all bodies that have responsibility for dealing with Maboy. And that includes the cleanup and the accountability issue.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Donnelly.
Well, good chair, and I just like to thank people for supporting us. This isn't a suggestion that here's the route that we're going. This is almost it's to find out what the implications are if we're going down A or B. That's exactly what this is. It is a catastrophe. It is a blight. It's a health and safety issue. Councillor Alderman Hussey asked how many stakeholders. If going to stakeholder meetings, it would sort this out. We'd be going to the morning. We'd no issue going morning and night. There's many people outside this stakeholder group who have kept the spotlight truly and firmly on this, and they are the people that's working harder than possibly any elected rep or any council official in here. It was people like the late Joe Ferguson, people like Paul Hughes, Dicey O'Donnell, Dean Blackwood, the Gallerin, and many other environmentalists who are pushing this agenda hard and fast. And they're the people who I would credit of keeping the spotlight on this. What we're asking here is for council officers to bring back a report that so we can sit down, have a look at it and see, is there anything else that we could be doing? Because at the minute, it appears, the perception is that, that heels are being dragged and that there's no great will to deal with this. I don't have the knowledge whether that's accurate or not, but that is the perception. But if we can get back a report, we can look at it, we can analyse it, and for me personally, it will give me more information to make an informed decision. Elected members will probably have got an email too this week, and there's a number of questions on it. I don't know if they should be, but I know, Philip, you're probably aware of them questions. I don't know what, will them questions be covered within the report, or those issues be dealt with, or do you need to read them out and an answer be given? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. I'll ask Philip for a response on that if he has one.
Members, what will be taken forward is what's in the notice of motion. And what's requested in the notice of motion is that a report to be brought forward to a future meeting of ENR on the responsibilities, implications and liability for the council should it embark on an open and public call for remediation options at the site. So that's what's going to be taken forward now. If members have any separate questions above and beyond that they want to bring forward outside of the notice of motion, then we'll try and deal with those in the same way as we deal with any requests from elected members.
Thanks for that, Phil.
Thank you. Councillor Donnelly, I don't see any more speakers regarding the amendment, so I think we have to take this to a vote. The amendment, yep.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Alderman Cook? No. Alderman Guy is not on? No. Alderman Hussey?
Aye.
Alderman Kerrigan? Alderman McCready? Alderman McMorris? Alderman Middleton? Alderman Wilkinson?
For.
Councillor Jason Barr?
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr?
For.
Councillor Boggs? Councillor Boyle? No. Councillor Deany? Councillor Devine? Councillor Donnelly? Councillor Alex Duffy? Councillor Sandra Duffy? Councillor Farrell?
Or.
Councillor Fleming? Councillor Gallagher?
Or.
Councillor Harkin? Councillor Hart? Councillor Heaney? Councillor Hutton? Councillor Jackson? Councillor Leonard? Councillor McDade? Councillor McGinley? Councillor McGowan? Councillor McHugh? Councillor Mooney? Councillor Murphy? Councillor Norris? Councillor O'Farrell? Councillor Riley? Councillor Tierney? Councillor Neelis? That's unanimous, members and Deputy Mayor.
Apologies, John, for making you take that vote. I was getting maybe a bit of a different thing from the floor there, so apologies for that short waste of time. I'll go back now to the substantive motion now. Does anybody want to speak on the substantive motion? No, we're all good. I'll go back to Councillor Gallagher then to sum up.
Well, Councillor Donnelly done that, but I just and that was the Chuckle Brothers element of it. I opened it and he closed it. So I just to thank everybody for the support for this proposal, and we'll see what comes off the report, and we'll see. And I'm well sure and truly know that we will have further discussions on this to see what we can and how we take this forward. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. And going by the vote for the amendment, I'm getting that's unanimous. So we'll move on now to our final motion, which is from Councillor Harkin. And have you got a seconder, Councillor Harkin?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Gallagher. Thank you.
Can I take the motion as read yet? Yeah, look, as we all know, more and more workers are making the decision to go on the picket line and to strike for fair pay. And I think that the message from workers that I've talked to in picket lines, lots of different picket lines, is that they can't afford to wait for Stormont to come back. And they can't afford to wait because of the cost of living pressures that they're under. And they can't afford to wait because they can't pay their bills. And I think we've sent an important message from this council that we've backed those strikes, we support those strikes, and we encourage workers where there's injustice to take strike action. And more workers will be taking strike action in the coming months. And one of the latest groups of workers to go on strike have been the lecturers at the further education colleges right across the north. And here, that means that the workers at the Northwest Regional College, or as some people call the Tech, have taken strike action. They were out for 5 days earlier in October, and then they were out for a day a week after that. Now, they have said, and speaking to the picket line, they have seen their wages go down by 25% over the last decade. The starting pay for a lecturer here in the north is £25,000, which is shockingly low. And And they've been, over the last decade, they've had pay freezes, they've had 1% pay hikes, and they've just seen the value of their wages decline as their work responsibilities increase. Now, it's not the case that there hasn't been funding, but the problem is that the employers group, the College Employers Forum has prioritised corporate staff pay. And so if you talk to any of the strikers, they'll tell you that a lot of the corporate staff across the further education colleges have seen massive pay raises. There's been massive investment in new buildings, but not investment into the actual workers who are doing the job. And I think that this is disgraceful and unacceptable. They believe that the college employers and the Department for the Economy have taken no reasonable steps to try and address the pay issue and to bring about fair pay, and that's why they're on the picket line. And they're going back out on the picket line again because their notice of industrial action goes right up to the end of the year. So they'll be back out in November. They're having a meeting with employers this Friday. I think if we pass this motion today that says we stand in solidarity with them, we endorse their demand for fair pay, that it'll send a very strong message to the employers group that there needs to be action. There needs to be a proactive resolution of this so that workers get fairly paid, but also so that this doesn't impact on the education of students. And students are losing out when there's days when the lecturers are not in. And we have to put the blame for that on the employers, at the doorstep of the employers and the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Thank you to Councillor Harkin for bringing the motion. Chair, the SDLP stands with the North West Regional College staff. Our own MP, Colin Eastwood, joined them on the picket line last week, engaging with the workers and hearing their concerns. It is our view that every worker deserves fair pay and improved working conditions. The North West Regional College staff are vital in nurturing talent and fostering educational success, and it's high time to recognise their valuable contributions by promptly ensuring they receive fair pay and better working conditions. In Derry and indeed across the North, staff should receive proper compensation to uphold a positive learning environment for our students. The Act of Industrial Action resonates as a resounding call to prioritise education and establish a lasting example for the future. The SDLP maintains their support for these staff on the picket lines and through the ongoing rolling strikes scheduled until the end of the year. We will advocate on their behalf to secure fair pay and working conditions that they unquestionably deserve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mooney. Councillor McDowell.
Thanks for letting me on. Again, we support the motion. The Northwest Regional College is a major employer. Locally, it employs 750 full-time and part-time staff. And it's been transformed in the last 10 years to become really one of the best skills factories we have. And that's all down to the leadership, but mainly down to the workers and the staff in there. Now, Sinn Féin support fair pay. We support fair pay for all public sector workers. And we believe they need fair pay and safe working conditions. Now, again, we've had it alluded to today. There is one party that's not in the Assembly, and that's causing a major issue, because what's happening within within DFE is down to the fact there's no minister making decisions. And also in parallel, we've got Tory savage cuts. Now, how do we look at it just for members at teachers' pay, not lecturers' pay? And if you're a teacher in year 6, and I spoke to a union rep in Belfast who gave me these figures, if you're a teacher in the North, year 6, you get 36 grand. If you're in Scotland, you get 48. So you get a third more doing the same job in Scotland than you do here. Over the border, you get £42,000. That's 20% more. And in England, outside London, you get 40k. So it's clear that public sector workers in the North doing the same job are getting paid less. It's not acceptable, and Sinn Féin will challenge that. And that's why we keep coming back to it. We need to be back at the Assembly, challenging these cuts and moderating them. And without that, it's very difficult. So I can see the frustration We have public sector workers with no assembly. But I will say one thing, I mean, you only have to look at these figures and, you know, I support the union and what they're doing, but being part of the union makes public sector workers in the north, not a union, the union, makes them worse off. So happy to support the motion and happy to have the union reps come onto council and put their case. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor McGowan. Have we any more speakers on this motion? We don't. Okay, I'll hand it back to Councillor Harkin then to sum up, please.
Saying a light. Look, thank you for everybody's support and comments, and I think it'll be well appreciated by the University and College Union branch at the Northwest Regional College. I think that you know, hopefully this will send a message to them and to the employers group that there needs to be fair treatment. And I think if people go and join them in the picket line when they're out there in November, they'll very much welcome that. Look, you know, it does make it more difficult for workers to have direct negotiations with government and for the question of funding to be addressed. And that is a deep frustration. We deserve the right to have a government. But it is the case that wages for Northwest Regional College workers, lecturers, has been going down since 2015. It didn't start when the DUP vetoed Stormont. And so I think we have to acknowledge that this has been an ongoing process. The second thing to acknowledge is that every grouping of educators here in the North is on strike. The teachers, they're involved in industrial action, and so are all the assistant staff in the schools. The university and college lecturers at McGee are on strike, and now we have strikes by further education colleges. What does that say? What message does that say to them, the lecturers and the teachers, about the work that they do? And what message does that send as well to our students, who we all agree are our main priority in terms of developing a future for them? So there's a deep, deep problem here. I think that the action that the union's taken is the key to resolving this. When people act and strike, that begins to move things. So hopefully the people will see this as a positive contribution to the strike. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. I do see that Councillor or Alderman Kerrigan just was slightly too late into the chat box. So unfortunately, Alderman Kerrigan, I can't take your comments on this now. But I will ask, is this unanimous or does it need to go to a vote? Alderman Kerrigan, is this unanimous or would you say it needs to go to a vote?
Sorry, I think we will let it go unanimous here, Mayor.
That's perfect. Thanks very much, Alderman Kerrigan, for that clarification, and well done, Councillor Harkin. Okay, folks, moving on now to item number 13, which is correspondence on pages 149 to 154. Is there anybody looking to speak on this? No. Moving on then to item number 14, responses to motion on pages 155 to 166. Anyone under this section? No. Seating list item number, no problem. Seating list item number 15. No. And then item number 16, any other business. I know that the Chief Executive has an item to raise and Councillor Tierney.
Oh, do you want to run this, Councillor? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just to let members know that following the item in confidential business, there's been quite a few press queries. So the press office has currently produced a response that's in relation to the land issue at Ballyarnett. Now, I'm advised that although that was dealt with in confidential business, because the decision has now been taken, that council can communicate openly the decision. But just mindful of the debate and mindful of the nuances around the debate and mindful of the fact that officers are trying to do this live, we thought it might be beneficial if we were to read to you our suggested response to the press queries to ensure that members are comfortable that this is the council position. following tonight's meeting. So are you content that we do that? Karen?
Apologies, I just penned this as we sat, but it does reflect information from the report and the information that you've received. So Council received a presentation from Derry GAA in 2017 setting out its request for council support regarding use of council facilities and outlining outlining the need for council to provide land to allow 5 local clubs to develop training facilities. This included a specific request to provide land to Namaya and Steelstown. Subsequently, papers were presented to the Council's Health and Community Committee to take forward the further leasing requirements. Final paper considered by the Agency Committee in October was deferred until full council. This evening, members agreed that a lease of the additional lands be provided for the provision of additional training facilities.
Thank you, Karen, for that. Councillor Tierney.
Deputy Mayor, thank you. And you'll notice that I put my hand up for any other relevant business, and it was this particular issue that I was planning to raise because I do have some concerns around it. And I would just maybe like an indication from officers. Are you informing us that you haven't responded to media queries at this point? Yeah, you haven't responded to media queries at this point. There is, and I have grave concerns, there's already a story about this decision on the media. Right now, as we're speaking, it's been on it before this meeting, before we even went on the notices of motion. It tells me that the confidentiality nature of this council has been broken. I'm trusting that it hasn't been broken by one of our officers, and I'm not suggesting that it has been. So that leads me to believe that the only other people in the room were elected members. So therefore, someone, in my opinion, unless I'm corrected otherwise, elected to this chamber has broken the nature of the confidentiality aspect of this decision. Now, if you read, anybody who hasn't read the article, read it when you get a chance. It's names myself in it for making the proposal, which I'm more than happy to stand over. It doesn't, however, name, and I'm not going to name anyone, that it was seconded and supported by Sinn Féin. It was also supported by every other elected member within this council chamber. So there's politics being played via the confidential nature of this meeting to the local media. And I think it's something that we all should be deeply concerned about. And I, at this point, would like to ask officers to read publicly under the record why this decision had to be taken in public business. I already know why it had to be taken in public business, but I think as a matter of courtesy, we need to make it clear that this process that we have gone through was all above board. There was nothing to hide, and I want officers to confirm the reasons why this decision had to be taken in public business, and confidential business, in line with our council protocol in terms of decisions of this nature and similar decisions that have been taken of a similar nature in the past. And I would also like to ask officers in relation, and I think I know the answer to this as well, but in relation to the breach of confidentiality within this meeting, what is the recourse for that?
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, sorry, I'm happy to take the first of those points, which is the reason why the paper is brought forward in confidential business. There's nothing unique about this paper in that regard. Our land transaction papers are all brought forward initially in confidential business because they deal with matters of the financial issues around the land transaction, and until such time as they are approved and agreed by members, those are always matters which might be subject to further negotiation or discussion. There is specific provision within the Local Government Act of 2014 in Northern Ireland which states that matters which involve the financial affairs of a party, and that includes the council itself, are matters which would be dealt with in confidential business. So nothing unique about this particular paper in that regard. In terms of your second question, I'm afraid I don't have an answer for that for you now.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, somewhat of an answer to that, which is unless the breach of confidentiality is traced to an officer, there is little that officers can do about that.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, look, it should have been in public business, and I think that most council discussions should be in public business. I was certainly not the league. If you want to check my phone, you can. But I also think that you already know, okay. But I also think, look, everybody should be prepared to defend what we argue in confidential meetings. I think we need more transparency. I think that, as Councillor Tierney said, it was nobody opposed it. So if there's a press statement going out from the council, I think, in my opinion, it has to incorporate the fact that there was apparently a dual process or parallel process happening, and that there's been serious questions raised about this. There was questions raised about the legality of it. Could we stand over it? And also, I mean, I think that a number of us described it as a mess or a disaster and unacceptable. And I think that if we're putting a statement out officially from the council, it has to include that, because it'll attempt to make it look like there's nothing to see here. And unfortunately, there is, because one party is left very, very frustrated, and that's just unfair.
Thank you, Alderman. Sorry, Alderman. I'm sorry. He's just getting voted that time the evening. Councillor Harkin, thank you. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for letting me in, and only been made aware of the statement online by Councillor Tierney. But in the spirit of transparency, I seconded the proposal. It was a unanimous decision by the council. There was nobody that went against it, but there were concerns that have been raised throughout the discussions, and we thrashed them through, and it became a unanimous decision of council. I welcome the statement that is going out. I would also like to say I haven't communicated with anyone outside this council chamber apart from my husband, and he didn't tell anybody. But honestly, I think that there was an open and transparent discussion, and be it in restricted business. That discussion did take place, and it was open and frank around some of the issues that have been presented. And I think as part of the proposal, it's important to state that we have asked council to work with the other party in terms of progression of that project as well. But that's for open and transparent purposes. I was happy to second the proposal.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Duffy. I think that's Councillor Tierney.
I agree with both of what Councillor Harkin and Councillor Duffy have said. And I think based on some of the points that Councillor Harkin in particular made, we might want to review the press release or the response to the queries that have come in to reflect more of the discussion. And particularly, I suppose, from my point of view, the fact that this decision was unanimous across this council, because I think that's an important outcome of this discussion, which others clearly haven't relayed to their sources.
Just through you, Deputy Mayor, just members, I'm aware that obviously the meeting's going to close and we're going to have to deal with this press query. So just to be sure that you're content with what we say, broadly in line with what Karen said, we will also add that it's a unanimous decision of council. We will perhaps put into it that these were difficult decisions that had to be taken this evening due to conflicting interests on the site. And we will add at the end of the press release that it's council's request that officers continue to work with all parties with regard to their aspirations in the park. Would that be reflective of the broad view of the thrust of the decision? Okay. Thank you.
Final speaker on this, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you. Chair, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. We can write a song, right? But no, just as a word of caution, but I think that officers and press releases, we need to be careful that we don't respond to the way stories are wrote by journalists or whoever else, that if anyone is, and I'm sure all of us at some stage will get picked out individually, that if we respond to that on an individual basis back, then I think we would go round and round and round in circles, and the press would look to tie up everybody that's involved in making hard decisions, and it might cause undue stress that people may make different decisions. Do you know what I mean? So I think we just need to be careful of that.
Thanks very much, Councillor Garrow. Folks, thanks for everyone for thankfully got to finish today, and look, I wish you all a very happy and safe Halloween, and see you all in November. Thank you.